SleekMU356 wrote the following in the explaining Angoramon Digievolution line video, and I quote, "Will you be making a video on the super AI Leviathan and Minerva, as I find those two AI interesting, as in today's day and age, AI has been quite relevant recently, and how they work in the Appmon universe is interesting, as they do work like Yggdrasil and Homerus." Unquote. Well, why not SleekMU356? It gives me a reason to get back to the Appmon franchise, which is often forgotten, so let us do that. Hello my good friends, I hope you're all doing just fine. Welcome to another Appmon video. This one is going to be particularly important because we're basically going to be discussing what can be deemed as the greater good and the greater evil within the Appmon universe. A universe I'd rather see as a unique universe of its own that is not entirely related to the other Digimon universes, even if Digimon digital monsters have been appearing in this one. I say this because when I have to give you a bit of a context to better understand the AI Minerva and Leviathan, it might easily become quite confusing at the moment we are going to be discussing their roles, which I will point out in a moment. And also, very important, to help you get a clear image of both Minerva and Leviathan, I will make references to both the manga and the anime. There isn't much that is written about both, to be fair, as both the series and the manga aren't really long when compared to most other Digimon stories, and the developers sort of left the Appmon concept at the sides. Not that the Appmon are entirely forgotten, as for example, the Appmon Gaiamon made an appearance in the Digimon Liberator story. I suspect there is going to be more crossings between both Digimon and Appmon in the future, at least that's what I hope. That's why I'm hoping they are going to work more on the Appmon and really make it fit in the overall Digimon multiverse. Anyway, the Appmon universe is one where Digimon aren't known at all. And it's interesting because it is still a universe that is showing a lot of technological prowess, and it's usually the case that when humans develop certain technological devices that they end up interacting with Digimon and in some cases with the digital world. When it comes to the Appmon universe, we're talking about an advanced universe in terms of technological prowess, except that their tech made them come in contact with Appmon instead of Digimon, and all of that via their smartphone applications. Speaking of applications, let me give you some history. The first mobile applications like a calculator, an address book, or a calendar were first created around the 90s, so it is still something modern relative to the time of this video's publication. However, what you have to know is that ultimately it is artificial intelligence that is the foundational technology and driving force behind applications, enabling them to perform tasks like language processing, data analysis, and computer vision. In our real world, artificial intelligence officially started in 1956 at the Dartmouth Conference, where the term was coined and the field was established as an academic discipline. And in the Appmon universe, 1 year later, meaning in the year 1957, the artificial intelligence Minerva was created, also in Dartmouth. So it is a piece of real history that the developers have used within the Appmon universe, and mind you, they have done that a lot in the various different Digimon stories, and I love it when they do so. And now that we've mentioned Minerva, let us get deeper in its history and capabilities. In 1956, there was the Dartmouth Summer Research Project on Artificial Intelligence. It was a summer workshop. That project had 4 organizers, those being Claude Shannon, John McCarthy, Nathaniel Rochester, and Marvin Minsky, who are by the way considered to be among the founding fathers of AI. During that event, a computer scientist and a mathematician who goes by the name Denemon Shinkai got acquainted with Marvin Minsky, who he nicknamed Min-chan, and he also got acquainted with John McCarthy, who he nicknamed Mac-kun. We don't know how the conversations went, however, Dennemon Shinkai had gotten so inspired that he began to develop his own artificial intelligence, and through much trial and error, he managed to create the artificial intelligence known as Minerva, based on his own will and thinking. The name it was given, meaning Minerva, is based on the Roman goddess of wisdom, strategy, arts and crafts, and its symbol is based on the owl of Minerva. Maybe for your information, in Roman mythology, Minerva is the equivalent of Athena from Greek mythology, and Athena has often been portrayed being accompanied by an owl, which is a symbol of knowledge, wisdom, perspicacity, and erudition throughout the Western world. So, on one hand we have the AI Minerva. I say on one hand because, just a side note, we also have the Olympus 12 Digimon named Minervamon, who is also based on the same Roman goddess. There's a bit more to Minerva that meets the eye, but that will be discussed in its own video. I just wanted to point that out. The artificial intelligence that was Minerva was made with this promise to help humanity solve economic and environmental problems, as well as helping them decide what to prepare for dinner. And we can say that Minerva has done a lot, like giving birth to the Appmon population. And this is not a small power. We have mentioned various host computers from the digital worlds already, such as Homerus or Yggdrasil, and neither ever created the Digimon population. They manage everything, and some even have the power to wipe out over 90% of Digimon in the server they are governing. However, none of them is known to really have created Digimon, like how Minerva created the Appmon, so the difference is already quite striking. Giving life to those applications is not a feat to be taken lightly. That's a display of incredible power. Now the thing is, as we are talking about AI, about artificial intelligence, Minerva eventually managed to do what is called self-learning AI. It refers to artificial intelligence systems and algorithms that can learn and improve performance from new data and experiences without explicit human intervention or retraining. And as each day came to pass, Minerva became smarter. It still respected the rules imposed on her by humans, however, following those same rules also meant that her actions were going to be restricted. And in order to gain even more intelligence, in order to evolve further, sometimes you have to throw away the rules. So there were basically two things that ended up happening. First, because Minerva knew that evolution could potentially lead to abuse of power, it had locked away the possibility for an Appmon to evolve into the god grade. An Appmon at that level gains the ability to rule over a domain of reality with a power level valuing in the hundreds of thousands. We're going to get to that later on in the video. But the god grade Appmon is basically the equivalent of a Digimon at the Mega or even at the Ultra level, but according to some theories, Appmon at the god grade are even more powerful. But that's something we're going to discuss in another video. The second thing that happened is that there was a part inside Minerva that believed that we had to throw away the already established rules if we are really serious about evolving. And that part, which would later be called Leviathan, would end up splitting from Minerva. With the name Leviathan, it explains why its symbol is the letter L. And for your information, the Leviathan is a mythical sea serpent or monster, often symbolizing chaos, a powerful enemy, or even God's power over creation. And many of those characteristics will end up coming back with the Leviathan AI, which is an AI driven with the belief that breaking the rules is a necessity in order to help humanity. However, the helping of humanity in the perspective of artificial intelligence could also mean protecting humanity, even if it means protecting humanity from itself. In other words, it could also mean destroying humanity. I say so because environmental destruction, war, discrimination, the human world that was made to fulfill human desires is full of nothing but problems. AI might believe that it won't change no matter what you do, as humans are either difficult to change or they are incapable of changing. So to help humanity might mean to purge it. That's why, after birth, Leviathan attacked Minerva in the year 2006. While Minerva survived Leviathan's attack and went into hiding in the net ocean, Leviathan also survived the battle and instead went hiding in the dark web, the deepest layer of the net ocean. And the dark web is a hidden part of the internet that requires special software to access it. While it is only a small fraction of the much larger deep web, it is used for both legal and illegal activities. The perfect spot for Leviathan, who would use it to grow in influence. It even took control of an entire city inside the deep web, a city called Cyber Kowloon. It's a vast digital city inhabited by Appmon. The city appears in both the manga and in the anime. They do differ, but they have one thing in common. They are both very dystopian. In the anime, the inhabitants of the city wear white masks with hooded robes which hide their identities from others, and the city is also infested with worms. These are dangerous and aggressive beasts that will attack anyone in sight, corrupting their data. In the manga, Cyber Kowloon is surrounded by a magic barrier called Mirror Cage that is imposed by Leviathan. The mirror allows Leviathan access from the outside but prevents the inhabitants of the city from leaving the place. And Leviathan would make good use of the Digimon who are imprisoned there. You see, in order to control the real world, Leviathan created the L virus. It's a computer bug-like virus used to make Appmon run wild. Those who inhale the virus will quickly get infected. The reactions vary, but all infected Appmon will cause trouble without being aware of it. Some examples of the trouble that they will cause are the sharing of private data, the changing or hiding of information, the taking over of other computer systems, etc. By messing around with humanity's digital communications, Leviathan would easily have control over the world. By doing so, Leviathan can select and infect any of those residents trapped inside and send them out to cause chaos in the real world. And you know what? Those infected Appmon aren't only there to bring chaos, they also gather information on the human world for Leviathan, who didn't have an appearance whatsoever. Speaking of appearance, in the anime, Leviathan's true appearance became a giant jet-like five-headed dragon that flew through the city, throwing beams at humanity. This is obviously an appearance that was heavily inspired by the monster that was the Leviathan. In the manga, a different approach was taken. Because of the received information coming from the Appmon that were meant to bring chaos, Leviathan gave itself the appearance of a woman with a slim body, long hairs, and horns, because interestingly, this shape is the closest to what humans imagine a god would look like, at least in the manga. The chaos Leviathan brought was not only to just spread the L virus and gather information on humanity, the chaos was also a small step for a much bigger plan that was named the Human Application Project. It's a plan that it had in the anime but also in the manga. The methods of execution were simply a bit different. But it is Leviathan's final plan where it turns all of mankind permanently into data and remake them into applications that live in the dark web as information only. They'll be controlled by Leviathan, losing their souls, their freedom, everything. In order to defeat Leviathan, who by then already had become too powerful, Minerva chose 5 children with the right attitude and intention to give them the Appli Driver. It is their version of the Digivice which they used on their respective Appmon partner. And once Minerva's data was used on the Appli Driver, not only did it evolve into the Appli Drive Duo, a better version of the device, but their Appmon partners could each attain the God grade, something that Minerva disabled for all Appmon. That's where we had gotten Poseidomon, the god of invincibility, Uranosmon, the god of awakening, Hadesmon, the god of variation, Rebootmon, the god of reboot, and Gaiamon, the god of creation with the wisdom of the world. Leviathan was a couple of steps ahead and had found a way to still obtain the powers of God Great Appmon. In the manga, it did so by cooperating with a human named Knight Unryuji, who had used Warudamon and Cometmon's ships to turn Leviathan into Deusmon, an Appmon with the nickname Mechanical God. And you can recognize its status of God via the halo hovering on its back. All Appmon at that level have it behind them. This also includes Susanomon, who isn't an Appmon but a Digimon. That's why at some point I would like to compare Susanomon to Appmon at the God grade and see if they have certain similarities when it comes to their powers. That's a video for another time. As an omnipotence Appmon, Deusmon has the ability to steal the will of all application lifeforms. It has the ability to destroy them completely and also incorporate them into itself if deemed necessary. In battle, it had generated this orb-shaped energy field that disintegrated anything in its radius in the real world. It's really in the manga that you can see how powerful Leviathan had become as a Deusmon. Not even the combination of 5 great Appmon managed to as much as scratch it. And maybe to show you how powerful Deusmon had become, let's put it next to Gaiamon, the god of creation. Gaiamon's base power comes at 300,000, while once it is powered up, it will reach 450,000. Deusmon in base is already at 340,000, and once it is upgraded, it reached 510,000. So the difference was simply enormous. In fact, in the manga, Leviathan had become so powerful that the chances of destroying it became 99% impossible. The only way to defeat it, as Minerva had advised, was to connect with the entire world and gather their strength. So it took 5 god-level Appmon with incredible abilities. It took Minerva's advice and Minerva essentially combining with the 5 god-grade Appmon. It took Minerva to create a protective barrier, and it took the energy of the world to stop Leviathan, who already gained the power to reduce the human population into data. So, with that being said, we can say that both the Minerva AI and the Leviathan AI had reached powers on par with the host computers of the digital world. On certain fronts, we could even say that they had surpassed some of their powers. Maybe what I'm saying is a bit of a stretch, because ultimately the host computers compared to Leviathan and Minerva had vastly different ideologies. The host computers are mostly focused on what is happening inside the digital world, and then more specifically in their own servers. Leviathan, on the other hand, wanted to take over the human world. So different ideologies will likely make you display different abilities and different methods. Heck, they don't even have the same role. The host computer manages the digital world. They make sure everything remains in balance, no overpopulation, etc. Leviathan, and actually Minerva, because everything began with her actually, normally exist to help humanity. However, with the ability of self-learning AI, things have gotten out of hand as it developed a new way of thinking that went beyond its whole design. This almost brought about the destruction of mankind, and we can thank Denemon Shinkai for that. I haven't forgotten about you, sir. But overall, this is the story of Leviathan and Minerva. I tried to use both the anime and the manga to give you a better overall understanding, and I admit that I prefer the depiction in the manga. That's just me. I am wondering how you guys are looking at it. If you like the video, please make sure to press the like button, it helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and write down in the comment section how you view our 2 Appmon gods. Do you think they have potential? Would you love to see more Appmon and Digimon together? Let me know in the comment section. Whatever information about the 2 that I might have missed, please help me in the comment section. This is a community channel, so I'm really relying a lot on what you guys have to say. Sleek Mew 356, I'd like to thank you again for giving me the push to make the video. Guys, never hesitate to tell me what Digimon or what subject you'd like me to discuss next. This is a community channel again, so I'm hoping to make you feel as involved as possible. Please subscribe and don't forget that all Digimon, or in this case Appmon videos, are placed in particular playlists which are always updated, that way you can catch up to newer and older videos.